You have likely walked away from a conversation feeling entirely convinced that a woman had no interest in you, simply because she didn't offer a bright smile, a playful touch, or an obvious compliment. You interpreted her quiet demeanor as coldness and her lack of overt flirtation as a closed door. But here's the reality that most men spend their entire lives failing to grasp. A woman's silence is rarely a vacuum, and her distance is often a sophisticated form of emotional armor. When a woman experiences genuine, deep-seated attraction but feels that the stakes are too high or the vulnerability is too risky, she does not become more obvious. She becomes more calculated. She retreats into a state of observant stillness, watching you from behind a veil of perceived indifference while her internal world is actually buzzing with intense awareness. If you are waiting for a neon sign, you are going to stay single for a very long time. Because the most profound feelings a woman has for a man are almost always communicated in the margins. They are found in the things she does not say and the subtle shifts in her baseline behavior that only an informed observer can detect. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the hidden psychology of female attraction, specifically focusing on those moments when she seems distant but is actually vibrating with interest. We are going to dismantle the myth that no news is bad news and replace it with a sophisticated understanding of how women protect their hearts, while simultaneously signaling their desire for you to step forward. This is about the subtlety premise. This premise suggests that the more a woman values a potential connection, the more she will guard it. She isn't playing a game for the sake of manipulation. She is conducting a high-stakes investigation to see if you are a safe harbor for her emotions. If you can learn to read these signals, you will possess a level of social intelligence that puts you ahead of 99% of the male population. You will stop chasing the women who are merely being polite and start noticing the women who are actually waiting for you to notice them. Let's break down the specific, nuanced signs that indicate she is deeply into you, even when she is doing her best to hide it. Sign 1 is the phenomenon of the meticulous observer. Most people think that attraction leads to talkativeness. But for a woman hiding her feelings, attraction leads to data collection. Pay attention to the details she remembers. If a woman casually mentions a specific detail about your life that you only shared once in passing months ago, that is not just a sign of a good memory. It is a sign of a focused mind. Most human beings are inherently self-centered. We filter out 80% of what other people say unless it directly impacts us. However, when a woman is romantically interested, her brain prioritizes every syllable you utter. She creates a mental archive of your preferences, your childhood anecdotes, your professional frustrations, and your future goals. She might bring up your favorite obscure coffee order or ask how that difficult meeting went, the one you mentioned briefly while walking to your car weeks ago. She will often present these observations with a shrug or a casual tone to minimize the impact. But the very fact that she held on to that information proves that you are a central figure in her mental landscape. This level of detail-oriented attention is a massive investment of cognitive energy. She isn't doing this for everyone in her social circle. She is doing it for you. Because to her, you are the most interesting subject in the room. Sign 2 involves the silent language of the body, specifically what I call somatic synchronicity. While a woman can control her words and her facial expressions to a degree, she cannot easily control her autonomic nervous system. When she is near a man she likes, her body will instinctively attempt to align with his. Look at her feet and her shoulders. Even if she is engaged in a conversation with someone else across the room, are her feet pointed toward you? This is a subconscious indicator of where her true interest lies. Furthermore, notice her behavior when the two of you are in a group and someone tells a joke. Research in social psychology shows that when a group laughs, individuals instinctively look at the person they feel closest to, or the person they are most attracted to. If she laughs and her first instinct is to find your eyes to see if you are laughing too, she is looking for a shared emotional experience. She is checking for a connection. This happens in a split second, but it is one of the most honest signals in the human repertoire. Also, watch for preening behaviors that she might perform without realizing it. Is she frequently adjusting her hair, smoothing her clothes, or touching her neck when you enter her personal space? These are biological signals of arousal and an instinctive desire to appear more attractive. Even if her face remains stoic and her voice stays professional, her body is shouting what her pride is trying to hide. Sign 3 is the strategy of engineered proximity. A woman who is indifferent to you will be content to never see you again. A woman who is hiding feelings will consistently find ways to be in your orbit while maintaining plausible deniability. She won't ask you out on a date, but she will suddenly start frequenting the same gym as you. Or she will volunteer for the same work committee. Or she will show up at a mutual friend's party that she previously said she might skip. To the untrained eye, these look like coincidences. To the insider, these are carefully constructed opportunities for interaction. She is creating a stage where a connection could happen, but she is leaving it up to you to deliver the first line. This allows her to protect her ego. If you don't engage, she can tell herself it was just a coincidence. If you do engage, she has achieved her goal without having to be vulnerable. This also extends to digital proximity. Does she consistently view your social media stories within minutes of you posting them? Does she like your posts but rarely comment? This is the digital equivalent of standing in the corner of the room watching you. She is staying updated on your life, maintaining a connection to your daily narrative, but doing so from a distance where she feels safe. Sign 4 is the contextual contrast. To understand how she feels about you, you must first observe how she treats everyone else. If she is bubbly, loud, and flirtatious with every man she meets, but she becomes quiet and reserved around you, most men assume she doesn't like them. This is often a fatal miscalculation. If she is naturally extroverted but loses her spark specifically in your presence, it's usually because she is suddenly self-conscious. She cares about your opinion of her in a way she doesn't care about the opinions of those other men. The high energy she displays with others is easy because there is no risk involved. With you, every word feels heavy. Every gesture feels significant, and so she shuts down to avoid making a mistake. On the flip side, if she is generally a very professional and guarded person, but allows a glimmer of her true, goofy, or vulnerable self to peek through when you are alone together, that is a massive green flag. The contrast is the key. You are looking for a deviation from her baseline. If she treats you exactly like she treats the barista or her cousin, then she likely views you as a platonic acquaintance. But if there is a specific vibe shift, whether it's becoming more nervous, more helpful, or even slightly more critical, it means you have an emotional impact on her. Sign 5 is the shield of indifference. This is perhaps the most confusing behavior for men to navigate. Sometimes a woman will act almost annoyed by your presence, or will go out of her way to show she isn't bothered by you talking to other women. This is a classic defensive maneuver known as counter-dependency. She feels so much attraction that it scares her, so she overcompensates by acting like she couldn't care less. Have you ever mentioned another woman in front of her and noticed her eyes go cold for a microsecond before she quickly offers a fake, overly supportive comment? That flash of coldness was jealousy. The supportive comment was the mask. A woman who truly doesn't like you wouldn't feel the need to prove she isn't jealous. She simply wouldn't care. The effort she puts into appearing unbothered is, in itself, a sign of how much she is actually bothered. She is trying to maintain the power dynamic. In her mind, the person who cares less has the most power. By acting indifferent, she is trying to regain the control she feels she is losing because of her feelings for you. Sign 6 is the silent audition. Before a woman reveals her heart, she will test your character in very subtle, almost invisible ways. She might mention a small problem she's having, not because she wants you to fix it, but to see if you'll listen. She might forget to text you back for a day to see if you'll become needy and aggressive, or if you'll remain centered and secure. She might challenge one of your opinions to see if you have the backbone to stand your ground, or if you'll fold just to please her. These aren't malicious shittists. They are safety checks. She is looking for a man who is consistent, emotionally regulated, and observant. If you pass these tests by remaining a grounded version of yourself, her walls will slowly begin to crumble. She is looking for a leader, someone who can handle the complexity of her emotions without being overwhelmed by them. Now, let's look at a few mini scenarios to illustrate how this looks in the real world. Imagine you are at an office happy hour. There is a woman you've been chatting with occasionally. She's sitting at the other end of the table. She doesn't talk to you all night. In fact, she seems to be ignoring you. However, every time you say something funny and the table erupts in laughter, you catch her looking at you out of the corner of your eye. Later, as everyone is leaving, she walks past you and says, "Good luck with that marathon training this weekend," and then walks away before you can even respond. This is a classic hidden signal. She was paying attention to your conversation with someone else, data collection. She checked your reaction to the laughter, emotional connection, and she dropped a specific detail, meticulous observation, before retreating to safety. She gave you the hook, but she's letting you do the fishing. Or consider a situation where you text a woman a casual joke. She doesn't reply for 6 hours, but when she does, she sends a long, thoughtful response that expands on the joke and asks you a deep question about your day. The delay was her protecting her ego, not wanting to seem too eager, but the quality of the response revealed her true level of engagement. If she didn't like you, she would have sent a LOL or nothing at all. Why do women do this? Why can't they just be direct? To understand the why, we have to look at both evolutionary biology and modern social conditioning. From an evolutionary perspective, the cost of a mistake in mate selection has historically been much higher for women than for men. Choosing the wrong partner could result in physical danger or the lack of resources for her offspring. Therefore, women have developed highly sensitive radar for character and are naturally more inclined to be cautious. They are the selectors of the species, and selection requires careful screening. In a modern context, women are often conditioned to believe that being too forward makes them look easy or desperate, which could cause a man to lose interest. They are taught that the chase is what keeps a man engaged. Additionally, there is the simple fear of rejection. No one likes to put their heart on the line only to have it stepped on. By being subtle, a woman can probe your level of interest without ever having to take a full emotional risk. She is waiting for you to create a safe container for her feelings. She wants to see that you are brave enough to lead, observant enough to see her, and strong enough to handle her vulnerability. If you can provide that safety, her distance will evaporate. So, what is your move? If you recognize these signs in a woman, do not, I repeat, do not confront her about them directly. Do not say, "I know you like me because you remembered my coffee order." That will embarrass her and cause her to retreat even further because you've stripped away her psychological protection. Instead, the move is to increase your own level of safe investment. Start offering a bit more of yourself. Share a small vulnerability. Be more consistent in your communication. Show her through your actions that you are a man of high character who notices the small things. Create opportunities for the two of you to be alone in low-pressure environments. When she feels that the bridge you are building is sturdy enough to hold her weight, she will cross it. Most men fail because they either give up too soon, assuming her distance means she's bored, or they become too aggressive, trying to force a confession out of her. The middle path is the path of the observer. Be the man who sees what others miss. Be the man who understands that the most beautiful things are often the most carefully guarded. If you see 2 or 3 of the signs we discussed today, I can almost guarantee you that the feelings are there. The question is, are you man enough to see them and patient enough to let them grow? The ball is in your court, but you have to know where the court even is. Stop looking at the scoreboard and start looking at the way she adjusts her hair when you walk into the room. Start looking at the way she remembers your sister's name even though you only mentioned it once. That is where the real game is being played. Now, I want you to take a second and think about a woman in your life right now. Have you been interpreting her coolness as a lack of interest? Or, looking back at these signs, do you start to see the patterns of a woman who is actually deeply attracted to you, but is waiting for you to make it safe for her to show it? This realization can be a massive turning point in your dating life. It shifts you from a place of confusion and frustration to a place of power and clarity. You are no longer guessing. You are reading a map that most men don't even know exists. But remember, with this knowledge comes a responsibility. If you see these signs and you know she is vulnerable, treat that information with respect. Don't play with her emotions just because you know you have the upper hand. Use this insight to build something real, something grounded in mutual understanding and psychological safety. That is the hallmark of a high-value man. I've seen so many great connections fall apart simply because the man took the woman's protective silence at face value. He thought she was being difficult when she was actually being careful. Don't let that be your story. Learn the language of the subtle. Master the art of the psychological insider. And when you finally see that wall come down, you'll realize that everything you were looking for was right there the whole time, hidden in plain sight. This is the difference between a man who reacts to the world and a man who understands the world. Which one do you want to be? The choice is yours, and it starts with paying attention. If you found value in this deep dive into the female psyche, I want you to do two things. First, leave a comment below and share a time when you realized a woman liked you long after the fact, because you missed the subtle signs. Your stories help this community learn and grow, and I make it a point to engage with your experiences. Second, take these lessons and apply them today. Don't just watch this as entertainment. Use it as a tool for transformation. Look at your interactions through this new lens and see what changes. You might be surprised at how much hidden attraction has been surrounding you all along. Until next time, stay observant, stay grounded, and keep building the life and the relationships you deserve. The world is full of signals. It's time you started receiving them clearly. When you stop looking for the obvious, you start seeing the truth. And the truth is usually much more exciting than the surface-level noise. You have the blueprint now. Go out there and use it.